Hello, my name is William Kumwembe, welcoming you to this week's edition of the program Business Time. This is a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. And in the program today, we look at the possible impact of the scrapping off of part of the Malawi's debt to China. We speak to both Chinese government officials and the Ministry of Finance. And also in the program, we look at the impact of the special economic zones that is targeting to attract about $900 million worth of investments. We discuss the progress registered this far. That's inside Business Time. Hello and welcome. This is Business Time. My name is William Kumwembe. In our main story in the program today, the People's Republic of China on Monday signed a $5 million partial debt cancellation facility with the Malawi government to concretize the debt relief package that was announced by China in August last year. During the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Conference held virtually in August last year, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said the Chinese government had waived 23 interest-free loans for 17 countries, including Malawi. Briefing reporters in Lilongwe after signing the agreement, Chinese ambassador to Malawi, Long Zhuang, said the waiver of Malawi's debt will not be accompanied by any form of conditionalities. He speaks to our reporter, Daunga Sabola from Lilongwe.
As you know, we believe that the waiver of the relevant debts of Malawi is a very important outcome of the cooperation and cooperative and friendship between our two countries. Last year, we celebrated the 15th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and Malawi, and we are committed to further promote the economic development, the practical cooperation, the people exchanges between our two countries, and bring our relations to a new high level. That's giving more benefits to our own peoples.
Now, the Treasury says this is a relief in as far as the strides towards addressing debt issues is concerned, as Malawi continues to grapple with rising debt as we speak. Treasury head is the Minister of Finance, Kumwembe, who says Malawi would have to continue working towards addressing the challenges that it has been faced in as far as debt is concerned.
This partial cancellation speaks of the commitment of China to help Malawi out of the situation that we are in. You know that as we moving towards the ECF, it is now a requirement that our debt restructuring should extend to bilaterals, and China, of course, there is also India. They are part of our significant bilaterals, and we've reached out to China so that we engage in this restructuring, and the traction that we're getting from the People's Republic of China, of course through His Excellency Zhou here as the ambassador, is very encouraging, and both parties, we are working very hard to make sure that we conclude this matter as quickly as possible. And all this speaks to the commitment of China as friends of Malawi.
Now, the government intends to create about 240,000 jobs through the special economic zones, where Minister of Industry and Trade Simplex Chichola Banda says some of the structures would be constructed and would be ready by June this year. The government plans to put up some 4 industrial sites across the country in 3 major cities of Blantyre, Lilongwe, and Mzuzu. And the project is earmarked to attract investments worth $900 million. Our journalist, Eric Msikiti, has the whole story in this report.
Pan-African Multilateral Trade Finance Institution, the Africa Export-Import Bank, Afrexim Bank, recently announced to have set aside $6 million, which is about 6 billion kwacha, for the Special Economic Zones Initiative. The zones would propel creation of industries, job opportunities, increased export of Malawian manufactured goods, expansion of cities, and making available land for houses to reduce slums and for businesses in view of Malawi 2063's industrialization agenda. The government already earmarked 624 hectares across 3 regions to develop the special economic zones, which will transform cities and provide jobs through value addition of export-oriented products and other products that can compete favorably with imports. Now, speaking when he toured one of the set sites in Blantyre on Friday, Chichola Banda said some groundwork has already started and that the parks will soon take shape. He says his ministry will start working with other government ministries, departments and agencies towards tabling and passing of the Special Economic Zones Bill to guide operations of the sites.
Some of the very crucial stages that as a ministry we are going to push for is the legislation which will form part of the legal and regulatory framework that will actually guide the operations of this one. So we are talking about the Special Economic Zones Bill passed into law, and I will, as a minister, be pushing with other ministries like Ministry of Justice to make sure that the law is passed and put in place so that we don't delay any longer. As a ministry, we are also looking into it on how best we can incentivize our work so that we convince would-be potential investors so that they benefit from the incentives per se. But you would also agree with me that I've just talked about the law. The legislation that would actually guide us on how best we can manage investment in this country under the Special Economic Zones Bill. So I hope when the legislation is put in place, all these incentives will actually be managed. And I hope that time has come that we needed to appeal to would-be investors. Come and invest in Malawi. Government is trying to create conducive environment for trade and investment in this country so that we can be able to invite, convince and lure not only the domestic investors but also the foreign direct investment. So I am happy that what I've seen today has given me vigor and courage to even talk to would-be investors to come and invest. The issues about incentives is not a big deal. These are issues that you can sit down on a roundtable discussion, discuss and agree.
Chichola Banda then reiterated the government's commitment in turning Malawi into a manufacturing and exporting nation. According to Chichola Banda, the government will incentivize domestic and foreign investors to venture into various projects under the Industrial Parks Initiative. Malawi Investment and Trade Center is spearheading the initiatives, which officials also say is currently at an advanced stage. MITC Chief Executive Officer Paul Kumwembe says the master plan for the industrial parks is almost complete.
The master plan is in its advanced stage. We've finished all the processes. What is remaining is for it to be approved at the council, at the district council's office. The water articulation has been done. As you can see, when you moved around, you could see where water people from water board have dug, and you can actually see the water flowing out of it. The master plan is completed, so all in all, we are in a really advanced stage. What is remaining might be to actually have the approval and have a contractor start paving the roads. Well, there's some challenges for certain firms to actually maybe drop off. But then, soon as we started the special economic zones, we've had a lot of interest. And even for Chikumula, we've already got applications that want to come and start their factory shells in Chikumula. So obviously, maybe because of no structure in place, you could see some firms dropping down. But now I can assure you that all in all, within next year, as we're completing the special economic zones, we should have even more than what we had in the previous time.
In his State of the Nation address, SONA, delivered in Parliament 2 weeks ago, President Lazarus Chakwera reiterated his administration's commitment to industrialize the country through industrial parks, among other initiatives. Of the earmarked 624 hectares for the zones, the government has the 22.7 hectares at Chigumula industrial site that would host agro-processing and light manufacturing enterprises, including small and medium-sized firms owned by Malawians. There is another site located at Matindi with 128 hectares earmarked for manufacturing, agro-processing, chemical and pharmaceuticals, light engineering, mineral processing, and construction material production.
Remember, this is Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. And moving on with the program, about 40% of claims in the insurance industry are fraudulent, the Insurance Institute of Malawi has said. Speaking during the annual chartered dinner in Blantyre on Saturday, IMM President Hastings Kapesa said the industry is struggling to crack down the malpractice, hence the need for multi-sectoral approach to address the problem. He says the courts are critical in as far as fighting the vice is concerned. We have the whole story in this report.
Speaking during an annual chartered dinner in Blantyre on Saturday, Insurance Institute of Malawi President Hastings Kapesa said the industry is struggling to crack down the rising cases of fraudulent claims. He said the vice threatens growth prospects for most players in the industry.
Indeed, fraud is there, but fraud is difficult to prove, and he has assured us that if we can, sit down together with him, with the judiciary, and discuss these issues of fraud, present our paper on how fraud is happening in the industry, they are willing to work with us as an industry, and they are willing to share notes with us on how best we can tackle this fraud, because fraud is a very dangerous animal that is meant, that can actually kill the industry and can kill our economy. So they are ready to work with us, and we are also ready to work with them together, because we know for sure, as we have mentioned previously, some of the presentation that we have done, we are saying 40% of the claims that are happening in the insurance industry, they are fraudulent. And we are saying these are the stakeholders that we need to engage. The judiciary, the Honorable Justice was here to engage with us, to interface with us, and he has heard it from us that we are indeed worried with this animal of fraud. So yes, indeed, there is fraud in the industry. As I have mentioned, to say, it's very difficult for you to come out with the exact figures, because fraud is a difficult animal. That's why I've said 40% of the claims that we have seen so far. It was also mentioned, this 40% was actually, well assessed and, presented by our president of Insurance Association of Malawi, Mr. Abdul Majidi, who actually mentioned in one of the in one of the articles in the paper, where he indicated that 40% of our claims are fraudulent. And we are here to assert to that. And we are here to say, okay, this 40%, how best can we make sure that we address it, and how best can we work together with the judiciary so that we can address this issue of fraud. So it is a challenge that we are experiencing as an industry. And you might also have heard me presenting in my paper that I presented, and I was commending the Honorable Chief Justice that there was a claims management directive which demands us insurers to pay 2 checks. This directive was issued by the Reserve Bank, the regulator of insurance in Malawi. Now this directive, the claims management directive, was not operationalized. The reason behind was that there was an injunction that was in force. Now this injunction, in his leadership, the Honorable Chief Justice, it was lifted, and now we are able to issue 2 checks to operationalize that directive. However, we needed practice direction and also his guidance on some few areas, because as it is currently, it happens that sometimes the practice is evaded through executions and the like. So we were trying to engage the Chief Justice to actually bring to his attention some of the issues that are hot, that are burning in the industry. Likewise, the court's amendment bill that was, issued. It's a good bill, a bill that will lessen backlogs in the courts. However, we are saying it has raised from 2 million to 50 million, and we are saying, okay, that's fine. However, there were practices that were being done at the High Court, and these practices were like, mandatory mediation. So we are saying these mandatory mediation, they can also be considered by the Office of Honorable Chief Justice. So to us, it was a presentation, a very sober presentation to a partner who has come to us to interface with us, and we are happy and thankful that the Chief Justice has listened and has actually even extended an olive branch by inviting us to go to his office and further engage him and present our issues, and we are ready to do that. We'll do exactly that. We'll come up with a paper and write a good paper. We engage the Honorable Chief Justice.
According to Kapesa, the institute is engaging the judiciary in joining forces in addressing the challenge. Chief Justice Rizin Nzigamanda graced the occasion. He said the courts are determined to deal with the vice in their quest of delivering justice.
It is true that issues of fraud are raised in the insurance industry, and they have been raised before the courts. And so as courts, we also deal with those issues as they are raised before us. I think it is important that fraud should not be encouraged. In fact, fraud should be stopped in the insurance industry, and the judiciary will play its role, its constitutional role, to ensure that fraud is minimized or gotten rid of. I indicated to the insurance industry when I first met them that I would be willing to meet with them so that I can understand the specific concerns that they have. And they did say that they are preparing, putting together some material, and that we would have a meeting at some point to discuss those materials and those concerns. And then together we can work out some solutions that would help us to get rid of those concerns.
Nzigamanda also said there is economic benefit of insurance because it plays an important role in ensuring that the economy of the country keeps growing even in the times of disasters and other natural calamities.
Now, in other business news, the Malawi Stock Exchange listed Illovo Sugar Malawi Limited says the cyclone threats in neighboring Mozambique could affect the company's growth prospects. Illovo Sugar Malawi board chairperson Jimmy Lipunga said this last week during the company's annual general meeting that was held in Blantyre. Our journalist Justin Mkwe was there and caught up with Lipunga in this interview.
It's been spectacular, very good AGM. As you could see, there was almost contagious joy looking at the results, stellar results that have been delivered. Good return on investment, good operating profits, but also good dividends to shareholders. A total of 21 kwacha per share from 18 kwacha per share last year, but that translates to, in terms of current dividends, 14 billion kwacha. We are operating in very turbulent times. We talk of the Russian war, but also, the uncertainties to do with the weather patterns, climate change. But that notwithstanding, we have a very, very capable management team. We refer to them as a dream team. They know the business, they know the risks, they know how to manage those risks, they know how to drive sales and optimize returns on investment. And so we remain positive and optimistic that the performance will be sustained going forward. We have to be scared like everybody else, not because of lack of preparedness, but we fear for human life. So it would be good if we didn't have a cyclone. And therefore, if we hear news of another cyclone, we're not just worried about the impact on the business, but also the impact on human life, infrastructure. With regard to Illovo Sugar Malawi, we've taken a lot of measures, we invested a lot of resources to insulate the infrastructure, the facilities against flooding, against damaging our cane products if that should arise. So there has been a lot of preparation and investment to forestall any impact of another cyclone coming, including the one Friday that has been talked about in the media.
Now, that interview also brings us to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. Always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Stay safe and bye for now.